So, as a professional astrologer, I have a confession, which is that I really hate how astrology will limit people's self-perception. I was recently thinking about this because I was creating this first house identity and embodiment workbook, and inside of the workbook I link to some pages of keywords for all of the different planets and signs and the zodiac. And as I was going through all of these keywords, Pisces being imaginative and Aries being bold and assertive, and Leo being prideful and potentially dramatic, I was trying to, pick and choose the words based on what has been revealed to be true to me over doing hundreds of astrology chart readings and doing natal chart readings for people over many years. And also knowing that the people who are using this workbook are people like me who are searching for the language that explains who they are. And this is exactly what drew me into astrology. I have been practicing and studying astrology since I was a child, and some of those terms were really helpful for me in understanding who I was as a person. I remember vividly when I got an astrology reading that I was a Cancer rising, and that probably made me really sensitive, and I probably like to be close to water, and then I had Venus in Aquarius, and so maybe I was a queer person, and that was all so affirming for me. But as somebody who is not only an astrologer, but a coach who works with mostly neurodivergent, queer people who are in a season of rediscovering who they are, I also know how easy it is to feel boxed in by these labels and these keywords, and how looking at a natal chart can be something that is really affirming, but also can feel really limiting if everything that you're hearing is like, well, this is exactly who I am, so I guess that's just the way that I'm always going to be. If you're new to my channel, my name is Ash, and like I said, I'm an astrologer and a coach, and on this channel I talk about becoming who you are as a creative and spiritual being, and how to actually allow yourself to become the version of yourself you choose to be. So I had to do a video today where I talked about why your natal chart is not the end of the story, and how it's actually just a starting point for you to start making some choices for yourself about who you want to become. So your natal chart is the map of the planets and the positions at the time that you were born. Essentially, we could get into a whole technical conversation about what your natal chart really is, but for the purposes of this video, we're going to use that as the simple definition. So you're a Virgo sun, you're a Capricorn moon, you're a Pisces rising, etc. You have all of these placements, and all of these placements are indicators of resonance, what you're going to naturally gravitate towards over the course of your life. But what you do with that energy is actually a decision. How you become embodied in identifying in that energy is a choice. And I kind of opened up this conversation last week when I was talking about how identifying as a sensitive person who can't handle disappointment, or identifying as a person who is bad at saving money, is not a permanent identity. These are decisions that we're making to continue to orient ourselves to the identity that we know, or choosing to make decisions that orient us to the identity that we want to become. And as I was coming to sit down and record this video today, I was actually thinking of an example from my own life where a few years ago I was really struggling to drive. I hadn't been driving my own vehicle for a few years, and when I was coming out of a business and life partner breakup, I got my car and I was getting used to driving again, and it was very, very difficult. And one of the things I really wanted to be able to do was drive on the interstate, but it was very uncomfortable and I would get so anxious and I would have all these nervous system reactions, and it was feeling like, I'm never going to be able to do this again, even though I had previously been somebody who drove all the way across the United States by myself. I have driven from Iowa to California, all the way down the coast in California, so like I had previously been in the identity of a person who was a comfortable and confident driver on the interstate. But I was in a season of my life where that was not my identity, and I really wanted to get back to that version of myself who was a confident and capable driver. Now, I'm happy to say that today I drive on the interstate every day. It doesn't bother me. I don't have anxiety with it at all. And I now am in that identity of being somebody who is a confident, capable driver on the interstate. But what I remember from that period of time is that I would push myself initially to go and get on the freeway. And I had all of these different things that I was doing to try to make myself feel more supported in that process. But one of the things that I realized was that I was more comfortable taking the back roads and the side roads, and that was the pathway for me to just become a more confident and capable driver in general. I didn't need to go from 0 to 100, right? I didn't need to go from, I just got my car, I'm just getting comfortable driving myself around again and being somebody who is like maintaining her vehicle, to I'm driving up and down the interstate every day. If you've been following along with the teachings I share every week, you know that I'm a huge fan of starting small and continuing to drive on the side roads and the back roads and really enjoy it. Really enjoy everything about that experience of driving slow through town and being able to take in the flowers in people's yards and their decorations, driving on the back roads between different towns and really enjoying getting to see the farms that I was going by and the landscape that I personally really love because it's the landscape from where I come from. All of those were small ways for me to become more embodied in the identity of somebody who was a confident and capable driver. Now, what happened was eventually I reached a point where I felt like I wanted to drive on the interstate. I wanted to save myself the extra 10 minutes that it was going to take me to get from point A to point B by taking a faster route. Through small, repeated adjustments to my habits as a driver, I expanded my capacity, which ultimately led to me moving from the identity of being somebody who was afraid to drive on the interstate to being somebody who is a confident and capable driver on the interstate every day. When we look at who are you being in your life right now, how are you expressing the energy that you were given to express on this earth, which might be informed by your astrology, might be informed by your natal chart, might just be informed by reflecting on like, who am I being in my life and how am I showing up in the world right now? When we have an awareness that we have the power to shift our expression of our identity, shift our expression of the energy in our natal chart, something that I see happen a lot is people want to like overnight overhaul, right? So like, let's say that I learn that I am a very intuitive person, or I have a resonance towards being a very intuitive person. I can start to use that information to, maybe become somebody who provides intuitive guidance to other people, or to create art out of my intuition. But it doesn't mean that I have the capacity built to be in that highest expression of that energy at this point in time. But I can, over time, take small repeated actions to level up in my expression of that identity, so that I go from being somebody who is very intuitive and has strong pattern recognition, who is expressing that energy primarily through being really anxious and second guessing everything around me, to being somebody who is a very grounded, intuitive person who trusts and has faith in the divine, who has the capacity to really hold space for other people because I know how to hold space for myself. So like another example that's coming up for me would be, let's say that you're a Gemini and you know that you're a really strong writer, and it feels like you should be getting more attention for your writing, but you don't have the capacity to hold that much attention being put on you right now. Like, let's say you're trying to grow a following on Instagram, but you find yourself resisting showing up and sharing your work. So it feels like there's a gap between what your highest potential is and how you're showing up in the world. It's because you haven't built the capacity to be in that expression that you're desiring to be, but it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. Say that you're a Taurus and you read about that as a Taurus, that you have a natural ability with money. You're naturally talented with money, but your own personal relationship with money is maybe that you find yourself shopping more than you want to. You find yourself spending money in order to receive dopamine or something like that. And it feels like there's a gap between what people describe as the highest potential of that sign of Taurus and what your actual lived experience is. That is part of the journey, right? So your natal chart is a map of how energy can be expressed. And then we receive opportunities through things like transits, which is when you read your horoscope, that's what you're reading, is what are the transits that are affecting my energy right now. And those transits are taking us on a journey. And we can choose to be a victim to that journey and stay in our comfort zone and stay in our, familiar identity and never really shift, and then blame, oh, I guess I'm just not a good Taurus, or I'm not a good Capricorn. Or let's say that you're using your astrology as an excuse why you behave a certain way or why something isn't possible for you. Like, I'm self-centered because I'm just an Aries. Or what's up other, I always pour into other people more than I pour into myself because I'm a Virgo or because I'm a Cancer. Astrology might resonate with your learned identity, or it might resonate with the identity you find yourself in this particular season. But it is not a permanent state. It's just information. We can receive those invitations to go on the journey and to level up in our identity and become a higher expression of that energy. When you actually show up for the journey and you really enjoy it, you expand your capacity. And this is what I've been talking about in this channel all month. All of the content that I have been making has been about how starting small and taking micro actions is the best path to expanding your capacity to grow into the identity that you want to become, rather than overnight overhaul. So basically the point that I want to make in this video is that your natal chart is not a fixed identity. Who you are being in this world right now is not a fixed identity. You are empowered to shape this energy and the way that you express it, and you can do this over time and actually use the transits to support you on that journey rather than to feel like you're fighting against it. If this is something that you are working on in your life right now, you're trying to move from being the person that you've always been or who you find yourself being now to actually shifting into the version of yourself that you're choosing to become, then I want to tell you about Spiritual Being, because this is the group coaching program that I host every single week, where I actually support you in orienting towards the version of yourself that you're choosing to become. And we're doing this through actions that feel safe and regulated in our nervous system. We are not forcing change to happen. We are allowing ourselves to be who we are now while orienting towards the vision of where we want to go. And when you join Spiritual Being, the very first thing that you do is you create a general life vision for yourself. Now, I love taking that general life vision and then weaving in with an astrology reading or deeper one-on-one support using your natal chart and other methods that I like to use to really help people become more clear on who it is that they want to become. But it's not a limitation, it's a way of expanding the vision that you are mapping out for yourself. And then we can use the astrology every week going over what's happening right now in the rituals that we do to allow that energy to support you and uplift you in bringing that vision to life rather than limit you. So if that's something that you're interested in, I'll put the details about that in the description of this video. And if you enjoyed this video, then definitely like and subscribe. And I hope to see you more as we continue going on this journey together in 2026.